Okay, Tina, I know you called me earlier today on that, and I think you had a prepared motion.
I do, actually. And thank you, Ms. LeBlanc, for coming in, for sharing. I believe fellow councillors had heard me reference this on a couple of occasions following the leadership of a few other municipalities in terms of what they have indicated in terms of an official motion. So if it's appropriate, I would like to just springboard from Sharon's comments and put forward the motion.
Okay.
Council request that the Government of Nova Scotia pause the RFP process for exploration of uranium in the province to allow for sufficient time for meaningful public consultation.
We have a seconder for the motion? I'll second that. Moved and seconded. Discussion on the motion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried.
Thank you.
Okay, you're up next.
My name is Stephen Wagner. I live at 62 Old Trunk 3, and I can't believe that the council approved putting in sidewalks on that road from a petition that has less. The majority on the petition are people that don't even live on Old Trunk 3. They live in Blandford. They live in Chester Basin. They live in Millennial Drive. And then on top of that, you're going to encroach on my property. Then you're going to go down an easement and you're going to put basically a pond, which is going to flood my backyard because it's going to overflow because you're going to hit water. Why? I don't understand why. If you want the road wider, and I understand for safety for bicycles wider, your representative from Public Works told me that there was no way the provincial government was willing to enter in with a deal that you would pave it. You would require nobody to maintain it, nobody to shovel it. You would require nobody to mow the medium. You'd save money because you wouldn't be buying SDR. You wouldn't be buying storm sewer grates. I called the municipality. I called the province. Province is more than willing to talk. I was told the province would not talk.
Well, they hadn't approved it prior to, but perhaps they would like to talk now. I don't know.
No, they were never approached. So you're going to flood my backyard, and I'm not happy. I asked for a perk test for where this dry thing was supposed to go. They don't even know if the land will perk. So when this thing overflows and floods my backyard, then what happens?
Okay, well, it was approved in our capital budget for this year, and,
Yeah, but I didn't know anything until I got a letter last Thursday.
okay.
I had heard there was going to be sidewalks. I went up before. When I went about the sidewalks to find out, there was nothing mentioned about storm sewers. There was nothing mentioned about going down along my property. There was nothing mentioned about bike paths, and there was nothing mentioned about a grass median. That adds an awful lot to width when you get a bike path, grass median, sidewalk.
Oh, yeah, no, it does, yeah.
And then, like I say, it's great for these people to come in from other areas and say, oh, we need this, we need that. Do I carry a parking spot in my back pocket for my vehicle?
Okay. Anyone,
But-
any questions for the gentleman?
I'd just like to be clear on where this is.
Yeah,
Oh, sorry.
yeah, and you should have pressed it too, so I knew we wanted.
I'd just like to be clear on where this is
It's
exactly.
Old Trunk 3.
Yeah.
It's heading up, you know where the Independent is, the road that heads up from there up towards Target Hill Road and everything?
Yes?
That's Old Trunk 3.
Okay.
I live right across from the spa. And the way all the drains are done on the plan that I was shown today, all those drains are gonna drain to a catch basin by my driveway and go down to the back, 160 or 180 feet. My property's 600. Years ago, the municipality in their thing of wisdom let somebody put a driveway in and flooded the very back of my yard. I'm not gonna let you flood the front of it.
Yeah, we don't approve driveways, but that's.
No, you did. Bruce Forrest did it. Don't say you didn't, because Bruce Forrest did it. Bruce Forrest signed the agreement for putting the driveway in because it was on your property.
Oh, on our property, to go across our property.
No, he went all up your property. So
Sorry.
you guys approved that and flooded the back part of my property. I don't want you to flood the front of it.
Okay. Andre, you had something you want to add?
Yeah. So, you mentioned two things. One, the need, if there's a need for this sidewalk.
Yeah,
Because apparently a petition was signed by somebody from Blandford or whatever.
it was signed by everybody from Blandford, Chester Basin, Millennial Drive down in the village. Nobody from
And
that
there's
my
also been a
stretch.
discussion of the technical merit of the design, and maybe there's some technical issues that you wish to discuss. Those are two distinct issues, and we'll make them distinct tonight.
Okay,
So first, the need. So I'm a counselor, not for your area, but just on the other side of the line, very close. I've walked that road since I was a child, okay?
yeah.
It needs a sidewalk.
Did I
And
say-
many people have asked for a sidewalk.
Did I say not to put a sidewalk in?
So let's talk about the need. The need is there. So if the concern is that is a technical one, then I'm sure we can meet, we can meet, you can meet, anybody can meet with engineering staff and go through
Maybe
the
we can
concerns that you
change it.
have, and we
The-
can assuage those concerns by reviewing with staff the technical
Your
merits of the
engineering
design.
staff's not responsive,
They will be to us.
because I figured I'd get an answer this afternoon about the perk test. Crickets.
We can ask for the information.
So if you want to have a meeting with staff, which is what you should have, if you have concerns, that can be arranged. That's
I
no
had it.
problem.
They met with him today, but they didn't give him the answers he was looking
Well,
for.
maybe
But we
they
can
need-
get a staff
can get a
report
staff report.
to.
We don't need a staff report here. He needs answers to his questions. You know,
Okay.
this is how we generate unnecessary work for this council. You know, we don't need a report, we already know the merits of why we asked for it. If there's a technical issue on a particular landowner's
be solved.
property, that needs to be resolved outside of this council table, that's operational. It's not a policy decision of this council.
Okay, no problem.
See?
But I
We
went on the
arrange that?
record.
I can talk to
You
Okay.
flooded, you bought it,
Well,
because you just shut me down and said you weren't gonna help.
that's not what we said.
No, that's what you said. You said,
No, I
it's
did
not
not
on the
say that,
net.
sir.
It's not on our merit.
Sorry, we got to keep this in order. Tom, or you had something you want to add, because it's your district?
Thank you, Warden Weber. Steve, thank you for coming tonight and sharing this. We did discuss things this morning.
Yeah.
I also agree. If there's something we can look at engineering-wise, we need to do that. And I promised Steve that we would make that happen. I want to keep that promise. I think that's very respectful for what we're trying to do and what we're dealing with. I do agree we need some kind of sidewalk out there because it is very dangerous. It's like Pig Loop Road, it's like many other, and Steve and I talked about that today. So
I'm all for sidewalks, but why not do it in an economical way?
Well, we'll see if we can. Staff will meet
Thank
with
you,
you and see if we can come up with a solution.
Thank you, Mr. Warden.
Okay. Okay, we're pretty much at the end of the public input, and I didn't see anybody else with their hand up, so I'm assuming that we're all good. Okay, so before we move on to the minutes, we do have the New Ross Farmers Association in at 6:15, and it is 6:15. Are they here? Oh, yeah, here. 8.1, let me find you.
Hello, everybody.
Hey,
Thanks so much for inviting me, Tina, to come and speak. My name's Char Gagnon. I'm relatively new to the New Ross area. I moved up here from Dartmouth in 2022.
you are a new
Thank you.
godfather.
Yes. Actually, I also have two autistic children, one of which is a resident of Bonnie Lee and now works at the shop in Central. So very much becoming part of this community. And when I arrived, the New Ross Fairgrounds is a very large landmark within New Ross, so you can't help but notice it. And, you know, I've worked with a lot of community organizations in the city and in some of the rural parts of the city. And, you know, it's very unique to have a wholly community-owned resource such as the fairgrounds. It's really a gem, and it is really unique for a lot of places in the province because it's a very large piece of land, and it can be leveraged for some great things. So I don't know who's flipping the... So I became involved with the Farmers Association last year. We were looking to start up a market in the community, a sort of regular market, and the fairgrounds was an ideal space for that. For the first year, I kind of got the lay of the land, and you know, it's not always easy for outsiders to come in and you know, get involved. But when I started to learn about the organizational structure of the fairgrounds, I was very impressed. Again, with the uniqueness of having that much land that's community-owned, purely volunteer-run, and so many different organizations that are involved at it that are really representative within the governance structure as well. So there's the New Ross Legion, the 4-H Club, the volunteer firefighters, there's tug-of-war teams, the Light Horse Group, in addition to other organizations that make use of the fairgrounds on a fairly regular basis. And of course, the New Ross Farmers Association is the umbrella organization that's really the caretaker of the land and convenes the space. So we actually wanted to do a community survey to ask residents about what they wanted their fairgrounds to be. Because for a very long time, the fairgrounds has been primarily used, well, back in the day, I've learned, it was actually a very hopping spot. There were dances, there were snowmobile races, there were all kinds of, a lot of cool things going on that have made memories within the community. So many people have such fond memories of that time. So, you know, we were thinking, how can we bring it back to that spot? Because recently, you know, volunteering is getting stretched a little bit. Money is tight these days. So it's been primarily only leveraged for the annual fair, and then with the addition of the rink as well in the last year. So we wanted to reach out to the community and ask them the types of things that they'd like to see the fairgrounds used for. So you can go to the next slide. So you can see, you know, around half of the people who participated in the survey said that they were longtime residents. They had lived in New Ross their whole life, with about 30% saying more than 20 years. But there's quite a few folks also who are new to the area, coming in new. And then we also have our seasonal residents as well, which are not only cottagers, but a lot of temporary foreign workers who work in the Christmas tree industry as well. We can go on to the next. So of course you can see here our signature event, the fair. 96% of folks had said that they had attended the fair, and then, you know, a mix of some of the other events that happen there with the rink, the market, the polls, the tug-of-war, and other, which could include clinics for 4-H or the Light Horse Group, or also private rentals as well, because we do rent the space out to the community. So a couple little quotes, you know, folks really wanted to see a lot more happening, a lot more fun events to happen, some festivals, dancing, more events for children. Of course, we have an aging population in New Ross, but we also have a lot of young families in New Ross as well. And so just wanted to see. And then the other piece of that was a lot of people wanted to see year-round use. Because currently, you know, it is used year-round with the rink addition, but, you know, having more events kind of planned on a year-round basis rather than just in the summer. Again, these were the top 3 things people wanted to see: more events and activities, buying and selling events, so markets and whatnot, and then animal and youth events. We asked what they thought needed to happen to the fairgrounds. And of course, I don't know if many of you have been out in New Ross and seen the facilities anytime recently, but you know, we have to ensure that the facility is really safe, functional, and modern. And that's really a top priority for residents and for the New Ross Farmers Association, because we have pretty big dreams for the space coming up. Also, we can do better on accessibility for sure, especially with the new provincial standards in place. There's a lot of upgrades that need to be done. And then a designated play area for the kids is also something that's kind of on residents' minds. You can flip this. So our vision for the fairgrounds, we're going to get into the meat and potatoes. So with the fairgrounds being such a vast land, we are planning on expanding that land as well. So we're in the process of negotiating the purchase of an adjacent 6 to 7 acres. And we really see this as an opportunity with the expansion of the footprint of the fairgrounds to hold more events, host more recreation programs. And really, one thing that has come up that we've noticed, you know, with a lot of emergency planning happening and priority to, especially with, you know, wildfires and any given day where we had the floodings. New Ross got hit pretty hard as well with the floodings that happened a couple of years ago. It would be an ideal location for a regional staging ground for community emergencies. So we do have a couple of comfort shelters in the area for humans. We don't have any kind of livestock place where, you know, if there had to be massive evacuations of animals, where would they go? And then, so really setting it up for long-term power outages and just an emergency operations base camp, in addition to a comfort center for livestock and animals and potentially families as well. But we have lots of challenges. We have a long way to get there. You know, the facilities is aging, the infrastructure is aging. We have some water line issues that we have to get some major upgrades. With the expansion of the footprint, we'll be able to deal with some of the issues related to the septic, and we want to modernize the washrooms because really the washroom facilities there are not sufficient for some of the larger events that we host, and hence the request for the porta potty recently. And so, you know, we also have some building issues, repairs. Last year, it was amazing. The community came together to put a new metal roof on the dining hall. We fundraised, grassroots fundraised $25,000 to make that happen with no grant money at all. So the community is very engaged, but we're talking big bucks that we need to do some of the big infrastructure upgrades. And we're trying to get our kind of like house in order right now so that in the next 1.5 or 2 years, we can start competing for some of the larger grants that are available. Because of course, I'm sure as you all know, for community organizations, accessing capital funding is really, really difficult. There's a lot of competition for it, and there isn't very many grants that you can actually access to be able to do it. Additionally, we are trying to find new ways to engage new members because we also have an aging membership. And we're seeing the impacts of that this year as we're trying to plan for our fair and needing more volunteers. So we're really trying to actively recruit new residents that are coming to the area and some of the younger residents as well. And we've been doing a lot of fundraising, so we're increasing our visibility within the community with social media. We have a raffle box 50/50 that we've been running. We're doing 3 of them throughout the year. We have the This and That market, and then, like I said, we're also positioned to be able to generate a little bit of income through rentals of the space as well. And I'm just gonna promote some of the fundraising that we're doing, you know, in case you wanna buy a 50/50 ticket. The QR code is there, you can check it out. So yeah, raffle box came to popularity through the firefighters draw. Of course, everybody in Nova Scotia knows about the firefighters 50/50. So we thought it might be a great way to engage the community with some fundraising, because again, we're trying to raise a lot of money, and we're trying to do that through community rather than through government, with the exception of course, the capital grant that we received from Municipal Council to do some upgrades, safety-related upgrades to our grill system, and also event enhancement for our sound systems there. And I don't know if it's the next slide. Oh, and we're doing our flea markets. We've had donations coming from the community, amazing response. We've had a lot of stuff donated. We're running some silent auctions on that, and they're generating about almost $1,000 per market. And we're also inviting other community members to come to set up for free, and then collecting some donations at the gate for that as well. And then our new big event is Country at the Cross, which is going to be a music festival that's being held September 6th. And Country at the Cross started as a very grassroots kind of music festival. Jessica Russell, who's the music teacher at New Ross Consolidated School and also runs music lessons for kids. She's been doing this kind of on her own at the gazebo at the Cross. And this year she had a dream to make it a little bit bigger and expand it with more dreams for the future to grow it every year. So we partnered with her, and we're going to be putting on a big one-day music festival and night market for that. We have received funding from the province to support us in that as well. And yeah, that's my spiel. Any questions?
It's a big project, and I think most of us are familiar with it, have been there, and we're happy to help you with the grant that we provided, and I'm sure we'll hear from you again.
Yes, indeed.
Anyone? Oh, Sharon, Tom? No, Tina, Tom? I don't know which one was first.
That's okay. With the music theme. So certainly, thank you, Shar, and fellow attendees in the audience with the Farmers Association, and supporters, not just members of the association, but supporters here as well. So again, this kind of certainly was organic how it all came to be, for you to be here today, and the Farmers Association being represented here. It was around, as you had said, the discussion with the porta potty placement. And that opened the envelope for discussion around the current status of the washrooms, the capacity, maybe some short, medium, and long-term planning for the grounds and so on. So again, it was kind of just a perfect opportunity that lined up. Shar and I had met, well, we've met a number of times, but most certainly this past winter when it came to some of the visioning exercise and the strategic plan that they had landed on and so on. So I'm very excited, as I typically am in terms of my fellow New Rossers and the projects there. But in terms of just the lens that they're looking through and looking ahead and smart planning, just certainly what makes sense in terms of blocks of development and so on. So I just want to thank you. I know I'm just repeating what you had said, but I just want to mention to council, because we really had that discussion looking ahead to our own major project envelope of money. So in terms of how this may or may not fit, and I know discussions have been taking place with the rec office as well, because certainly they are the ones that are the contact for our grant programs, any of the grants. But I do want to mention, and I would be remiss if I didn't give a pat on the back to council. So we were involved, a small amount for the new roof. But that was a couple of years ago, right? A couple of years ago. So I just want to put that out there. It's okay. And also, tonight, I believe further on our agenda, we have a report from our Senior Economic Development Officer with a contribution through our Economic Development Sponsorship Fund for the music festival. I don't know what that amount is. It's in the report. You know, it's not near what the province is providing, because I know what that amount is, but this is fantastic. So again, I guess that's it. That's it. Yes, okay. Oh, one more question to my fellow council. So on the slide, when we had the pie chart of how long have you lived in New Ross? One guess as to what my answer was.
Lifetime.
Yay. That's it.
Tom?
Thank you, Warden Weber, through you to our guest and the supporters. This is what community is about. This is what municipality is about. One of the reasons I wanted to run for council was, yeah, I'm from Chester, but I have a municipality. And I was so pleased. I've spent twice out in New Ross in the last month, and well done. You folks got your act together. You're doing things right. Spirit, building a group of people, and your presentation was so enlightening because it covered so many things of all of our communities, every one of us. So I do take my hat off to you, and I look forward to working with your counselor and this council on making these things the best we can do for
Thanks
you.
so
So
much.
thank you.
I think you started following our Instagram too, so thanks for that.
Yeah, I love it.
Andre?
I spend actually a fair amount of time, I go to New Ross fairly regularly, for a variety of reasons. I never really paid a lot of attention to the fairgrounds, if I'm honest, until the fair was able to obtain the covered exhibition space. I feel like that was, at that point in time, the fairgrounds really turned a corner and became like a real facility that could do a lot more than host a fair once a year. I see amazing potential in that space and what that covered area can do. So I was out last year with Tina actually checking out some of the stuff that was going on, and I'm really excited for what the future holds for that space. It's unique in our municipality. We have nothing like it. So we'll see what happens.
Awesome.
Thank you for coming in.
Thanks so
Sure we'll
much.
be working with you in the future.
Excellent.
Take care.
Thanks.
Okay, yeah, we are on time almost. 40s community signage. And Denise Dodge calling you. Well, I don't know how many of you are coming up. Sure, you can speak for a moment, yeah.
Thank you. Well, I've heard that there's some road construction, which I didn't know about until some others from New Ross had arrived on the 103. And I'm not saying that I know the route that the group is traveling to get out here, but there could be a chance that they ran into some traffic delays on the 103 because the intention.
Do you want me to wait?
I would like to
Oh.
request that we move on in the agenda and then, yeah.
Okay, not a problem. Okay, we're gonna go back up to 5.1, council minutes, May 15th. Errors or omissions? Motion to approve, moved by Clarissa, seconded by Tom. Discussion, all those in favor? Opposed, motion's carried. Public hearing, May 15th, errors or omissions? Moved by Sharon, seconded by Abdallah. Discussion, all those in favor? Opposed, motion is carried. Proclamations and designations, I'm not aware of any. Committee reports, Lunenburg County Senior Safety Program, it's just a sort of an update, I guess, yeah.
Thank you. My line seems to be business as usual. You've received the monthly report for the month of May in the package.
Yeah.
The board is preparing for its AGM, which is coming up in a couple of weeks, and it's just prior to actually when they are scheduled to come in and present to municipal council. So the Senior Safety Partnership Coordinator and the Chair, which we quite likely will have a new chair elected at our AGM, is scheduled to come in on Thursday, the 26th of June, and they will be in front of council just to introduce again themselves and the program. So that would be it, unless there are any questions that came out of the report that was circulated to council on the weekend.
No, good. Thank you. Bylaws and policies, 9.1, planning matters, wind energy. Oh, sorry. Oh, I forgot, yeah, okay.
Thank you. It was on. I'll be brief. Just the regular meeting in May of the Recreation and Parks Committee. Just really good discussion. They were talking about how to recruit volunteers. They'd like to see a revised volunteer recognition, so, you know, maybe some ideas will come forth to council. And the second one wanted to just say that the grand opening of the Han Estate Trail is on July the 10th from 3 to 7. I think we all got our invitation, but just for the public. And the sign is up, looks really nice if you haven't been there. And just a few more updates. June 4th was the deadline for the tender on the Gold River Bridge.
Oh.
So we're excited to see what comes back on that. And
Yeah.
regarding the trail, we have widened our gates to 75 inches, and we're going to maintain that and not, you know, increase them any further. There was lots of requests, but we're going to maintain it at that. And just one last item, they said maybe just for planning in the future, they're very interested in the lots that are owned on Spectacle Lake, the municipality owns. They would like to see them preserved for recreation, open space, and they would hope that we would take steps to do that and not, you know, think about selling them. So they just wanted that in our hat when we discuss anything regarding Spectacle Lake.
Okay, Abdallah?
I'm glad you brought up about the trail widths, because this is, I've had several, and with Chad, several calls. What I'd like to see, I would like to see us have a meeting with our MLA. I'm a firm believer that when the Off-Highway Vehicle Act was instituted, how many years ago, they didn't visualize, they visualized ATVs, three-wheelers, four-wheelers. These side-by-sides,
Trucks
guys are paying
monsters.
$30,000 and $40,000 for these machines. And I just, to me, it really hits home, because I have an ATV, and it's a 2003 ATV, and it doesn't even have 2,000 kilometers on it. For the simple fact, when they brought in the law to say that you have to license it and insure them, it was I don't know what we were licensing and insuring them for, because you couldn't take them anywhere, basically. So I would like to see the province look at this. We're losing so much economic potential with these machines that if you could get in your machine and drive the trail to get to Island View Restaurant or whatever, or gas station, and you can actually haul down on the road and do that. We're losing. I've been on this for years. It's such an awesome opportunity. They do it with Skidoo trails and with snowmobile trails in New Brunswick. We're so behind in Nova Scotia here that it's sickening to me, the province, as far as looking forward. You know how many, there's tons of machines in the province. And I think they need to rethink their Off-Highway Vehicle Act, because if you open those trails too wide, which you are now, to appease, you're gonna get cars on that trail.
Yeah, and that we
And they're
don't
gonna
want.
defeat the purpose. It's gonna be dangerous. So I think that I would like to see us set up an appointment, or have Danielle come in, and, see if she can push something like that forward. These machines now, they have signal lights on them. They have, you have to wear a helmet. If you're on the highway, and I'm not talking to 103, I'm talking secondary roads. I don't think that's an outlandish ask. I really don't. I think we're really missing the boat. Anyway,
Okay,
I
we
could
can-
rant on for everybody.
We should have brought it up when we met with Highways.
I
the
know,
other
but
day,
no, you're not talking to the right people there.
Yeah, anyway, we can have a chat with Danielle about it.
Yeah.
Andre?
Just since you raised it, the municipal lots on Spectacle Lake, those lots and the lands around them, they have a long history of community use.
Oh, yeah.
And, I've had requests even this last week about what we're doing and how it is that we can get back to using those. So I don't know what our plan is. We haven't talked about them, but at some point, I hope that council would maybe direct staff to start trying to find a solution to the access problem. So I understand that there's an access problem with those lands, and if we could solve that, I know the community would be interested in using it.
Yeah, it's good property. We certainly aren't gonna sell it, you know, that's for sure. So we can take a look at that. Oh, sorry, Tina.
That's okay. So it just gives me the opportunity to open up the discussion again with our growth strategy, because I know as part of our growth strategy, within that timeline and phasing, there's a recreation needs, I'm not sure if I'm wording it right.
yeah.
So there's, I know that I've been talking with a number of people in my community, not nearly enough people, but I plan on getting it out there, that, again, as part of the growth strategy, a piece of that is open spaces or recreation needs. Chad, I might be okay. So, again, public access, access to water, all of the above, certainly on the minds of people in my community as well. So they will be at those meetings and contributing and putting forward similar suggestions. And we may not own, as a municipality, land on a particular lake, but my community might be asking for that. I don't know. I can't tell you what my community's going to do, but I wouldn't be surprised. So we'll be bringing that forward as well. Just again, it's for equal discussion.
It's all part of the growth strategy.
Absolutely.
Okay, come on up. Do our planning stuff. Well, it's pretty straightforward, really, but
Yeah. It's just
we don't have any
second and
options.
final notice.
Good evening. So the report in front of you has a recommended motion to move as approved the amendments to the wind energy revenue policy P79. We had this in front of you for the first notice a few weeks ago. And as you recall, basically just revamping the policy to kind of update some of the language, the actual revenue streams not changing, so the substance of the policies is the same. So the changes, replacing some future tense words or language, because it was written right before the two wind facilities went in, and adding reference to the new proposed wind farm on Highway 14. So,
Yeah, you've got
That's-
a recommendation, or has anybody got a problem?
Mike, I'll make the motion that the municipality, that council move to approve as written the proposed amendments to the wind energy revenue policy P-79 following first notice, which was conducted on May 15th, 2025.
Seconder? Seconded by Clarissa. Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried.
thank you.
And I haven't seen anybody new come through the door. So I guess we'll just keep moving along
Yep.
for now.
Right on.
Okay, code of conduct, appointment of investigator.
Do you want to do this?
Yeah, sure.
Well, I guess so, yeah.
So as part of, if council recalls, as part of the requirement to adopt the code of conduct, it also required municipal units to appoint a code of conduct investigator and publish that on our website. For efficiency reasons, we worked with the other units in Lunenburg County, where one unit took the list from AMAN, so our Association of Municipal Administrators of Nova Scotia did a short list of qualified proponents and then published that to all the municipalities. From there, Modal took a look through and got quotes from each of those qualified proponents and determined whether or not they would have capacity to service all of the units in Lunenburg County. So what has come back is a request for council to appoint Taylor McClellan Cochran as the primary code of conduct investigator, and MC Advisory Group, Inc. to be appointed as the second option in the event of a conflict, and that the CAO is authorized to enter into 3-year contracts with approved 2-year extensions with both of those parties.
Yeah, well, we don't have much choice but to do it. Yeah, I need a motion to do it. There's a recommended motion there. Somebody prepared to? Moved, we have a seconder?
I'll second it.
Moved and seconded, discussion, all those in favor? Opposed, motion's carried. We still don't have everybody, Tina? I just saw some other people come in. Well, I thought that they had. Okay, so then we're going back to 8.2, 40s community signage. And where did I put that now that I decided to go back to? Ross Farmers. I got it someplace.
I don't mind doing it from here. Where would you like me to sit?
Okay.
Anywhere?
Right there, yeah. You just need to move the microphone.
Oh, you want-
Yeah, just so that the,
How's that?
yep.
Okay,
Just so that the
perfect.
public can hear you.
All right. Good evening, everyone.
Evening.
Thank you so much. My name is Denise Dodge Baker, and I'm a community member of the New Ross, the greater New Ross community, specifically right at the intersection. So thank you so much for engaging me this evening. I have a few other people who are part of a greater cohort of people who've been kind of working on this sort of interest area around, locations in smaller districts within the greater community itself. So you'll probably recall, although I couldn't believe it was February the 5th that I had submitted a letter respectfully to council members. So I just wanted to thank you initially for adding me to the agenda and engaging with me for the next, how long do I have? 5 minutes, 10 minutes?
We'll let you know if you're taking
Okay,
long.
great. So initially, the contents of my letter pertain to two specific areas. I had mentioned that as a longstanding community member, provincial signage, various locations, within the community. One in particular had seemed to have moved, in specifically about 4.2 kilometers in a different, in terms of distance from its original location. And then that kind of made me, think, that's interesting, and I hadn't really paid attention to it too much, but just had some conversations with various people and, was curious as to where that provincial sign had originally been located and then just over time seemed to have been relocated for whatever reason. And so the contents of my letter indicated, was this done in error? Just, something that perhaps could be corrected over, just a matter of a motion being made to correct it easily and in a simplified manner. Or, number two, was there a greater sort of reason or rationale for the relocation of that particular provincial signage? And was that, and did I inadvertently miss an opportunity to participate as part of a process around, public engagement, or where are the, where is this particular boundary area? And just, had I missed something? And was this part of, I use the terminology, planned and strategically organized, location of that particular sign?
Did you contact the province?
I did not. I actually, yeah, that's a great question. I did not. And really, I didn't know if I was kind of the only one who noticed it. What I did do is I did reach out to Tina,
Yeah.
and she shared a package with me and a few other people I think had
From years ago?
from years ago, yes. And so we actually started kind of working together as a group of people in interest in this particular area around the community itself and the signage and the boundaries and, what kind of evidence and, information do we have in history, whether it's collective memory, whether it's artifacts, whether it's maps, whether it's documents, whether it's deeds, whether it's whatever. And so I was hoping to come here tonight and say, great, problem solved. What I found, and after multiple consultations with many individuals, including historical societies, including, what would I say, people of various ages and experiences, their collective memories, as well as documentation around property online, is that there is confusion. There's a lot of confusion, and it's not just around the 40 signage. In fact, it's every opportunity within the community in this greater New Ross region
we have Seffronville, we have Mill Road, we have many, many, many areas. And I respectfully am coming here this evening to request, is it possible to engage in some sort of public consultation session or, you know, town hall kind of opportunity where we could come together and maybe initiate through council an opportunity to say, let's do a boundary review, or let's just look at this. It has nothing to do with 911. It has nothing to do with, you know, emergency responses or anything to do with that. I think that those are all intact and work very well. But there's a lot of confusion that seems to matter to a lot of individuals within the greater New Ross location. And I'm just here really to say, it would be great if we could have someone facilitate, you know, an opportunity within the community to clear this up and kind of say, well, what do we know? What evidence do we have? What information is at our fingertips? What's the input of the community members around these various locations and regions? So that's it, because there's confusion.
And I think we can do that. It's just nothing is simple in this world.
I know.
I mean, we have a staff report that tells us what that all means, the
Yes.
historical, where the evidence suggests everything was in the past and all that kind of stuff.
Absolutely.
But, you know, but for us to even go down the road of considering trying to make a change, we would need to know that the majority of people
Right.
are.
Absolutely. Yeah. Because what became very apparent to myself as well as many people is that it's not clear. There is confusion, and it isn't actually just pertaining to the 40s, and it isn't simple. And so if council made any previous decision, it would have been using the interpretation and best evidence probably at the time, and there's been no real error of anyone. It's just, yeah. So.
Yeah, and just like Sam said, I mean, where they placed that signage was the province's decision, and
Right.
you know, so, but, short team.
Certainly, thank you. So, you know, it's been very confusing, and it's been, you know, certainly there are those in the community that grew up in the community, remember the signage and the community locations and boundaries. Councillor Asif, you had mentioned, Deputy Warden Asif, yourself, around the Charing Cross signage. And now that's suddenly not there. So that's important. Like, that's a piece where we didn't touch on just yet. I know we're talking the entirety of New Ross, because it is all New Ross. But the fact that a community of interest actually doesn't exist if you don't know that it really, truly in your heart does exist. The signage isn't there. So somebody needs to take this by the horns. And, I mean, the province, I believe, and correct me, Tara, please, but the province is going to look to the municipality because of this whole thing that Sylvia had done up in 2018. I mean, they look to the municipality. The municipality, in terms of boundaries, back in 2008 or 9, would have done a boundary review, I think.
So it wasn't a boundary review, it was the civic addressing initiative that they did, the single address so they created what are called general service
Sure,
areas.
yep.
And so I think it's the blue signs, are they blue or green?
Green.
The green, okay, so the green signs that have the community names on them are based on those general service area boundaries. And so there was some consultation done back in the late 1990s, I think it was, early 2000s, around that. And so you're right, council did have some approval. They looked to the individual councillors at the time to go out and do some, I don't know how much consultation was done with the communities, I wasn't around then. But there was, my understanding is there was some engagement with the councillors at the time, and then council had the overall approval of where those maps, those generalized service boundaries are. So the green signs are located at those approved boundaries.
Okay, so there's, again, well, this was brought forward in 2018, I think. When I look at the minutes, and I don't have those in front of me, actually, the warden, you had mentioned if there's an interest or a group of people you'd want to hear, I don't know what it says, more than one, well, now you're hearing from more than one individual. And the group that Denise is referencing actually would involve people from the 40s, the Charing Cross myself from Aldersville, if I can wear that hat, that would have been there, and some of the other off-roads, if you will, and I will be more specific than that, but New Russell area and so on. So you are hearing from a group of individuals that can, in my honest opinion, represent the district of New Ross, and so they are bringing it to council table for clarity. And so they're looking to a level of government, and if you're suggesting it's a province, but I don't think you are, I'm not gonna say that right now, but somebody's gotta, this has been going on for a while.
I
And-
think we can have an impact. I'm not sure that we can absolutely, on our own, change everything. but-
Oh, no, and I don't,
Right, and respectfully, I think it's, as Tina is saying, there's a lack of clarity, not just pertaining to the 40s, and I think that an opportunity to engage with the broader community and to see, kind of their input around, what jurisdictions comprise the New Ross community as a whole, and are those clearly indicated in the signage? It
Yeah.
could be as simple as that.
And if we change it, are you in support of it? And
That's right.
what?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What
yeah, based on.
what all do we have to do to accomplish that?
Yeah. And I think that the group, again, I don't recall the public engagement that took place, right? And none of us can. So, we don't want to go back in time. But I think the fact is we do need to have that public engagement, because if not, the next, in the next 12 years, it's going to be the same discussion. So public engagement, hear from individuals that do care, that do have some, again, aged wisdom and evidence-based decision-making in terms of property deeds, reference to school photos and community signs, and those that have lived in those different areas of the greater New Ross area.
Okay, so we can get a report on just what all this would involve.
Thank you.
I mean, take it from there.
That would be great.
Oh, sorry, Abdel.
Thanks, Denise. Yeah, I just, this is all new to me in a sense, but, so if you're gonna call about public meeting, you're gonna have a lot of, so is it basically where the signs are for every community, or is there a few communities? Like, is the 40 song in the, sign in the wrong place? Or is it all of that? Is everything all wrong? I don't.
I think that there are, over time, for whatever reason, signs aren't there.
Okay.
I think what are the greater community of New Ross, the New Ross area, if you will, is comprised of many communities. Some are roads that might be Mill Road, that might be LaVille. Those are very clearly indicated. But some of the others would be less specific than that and more vague in terms of perhaps 40s settlement or the 40s area. Others might be the Charing Cross. We used to be very distinct areas, and the population has grown, and, for various reasons, signage is missing. It really is about a lack of clarity, not about necessarily a correction.
Okay,
Okay.
great, thank you.
Andre?
I'll just say to respond to Councillor Asif, that I'm not sure when it happened. It must have happened about 15 or 20 years ago. There was something, because I've had some smaller amount of similar complaints around Northwest Cove. There's a community, Coleman Cove, where some signs moved around, and there wasn't enough groundswell to actually make an issue out of it, and maybe the change in its location wasn't as egregious as this one. But I think the problem is more widespread than just in New Ross. It just maybe this is just the worst example of it.
It took me 3 years to get the province of Nova Scotia to spell Borgles Point Road the same at both ends. And then people who had it spelt the wrong way because of the one sign had to change their friggin' civic addresses and all that kind of stuff,
For interest's sake, it's not even necessarily that the 40 sign is in the wrong place. It may very well be in the right location.
Yeah.
Right? And so it really, it's a lack of clarity on our part, and we discovered that when we were doing some of our own research. So, you know, there's no error really that appears to be made with any intent or anything nefarious at all. So, you know, respectfully, we would just love to
Get
engage.
together and have a little
Yeah,
chat about it
yeah.
all, see what we can fix and what we can't.
Timeline, because I noticed that there was a sign off, I noticed there was a sign off in the information package by the previous Councillor Scott at the time, on the location of that sign. And similarly, in my area, there was a sign off by Councillor Hector for the location of the Coleman Cove sign, which I was able to obtain. So it's something had happened in that time frame where things were adjusted or whatever, and I'm not sure. In my time since 2012, I haven't been asked to sign off on the location of any signs. So I don't know what happened at that period that required this to happen, but something happened
I don't.
with these
I can
signs.
try to, so it was a larger province-wide initiative that had to do with the E911 mapping. And I wasn't around when it happened. My understanding was they looked at, when you call 911, what community name do you usually use? And they had to do a mapping program, or a mapping initiative around that time. And it resulted in some of the smaller communities being merged into larger what they call general service areas. And those signs that we see now, those green signs, are reflective of those general service areas. They're not necessarily saying those are the historical community boundaries. They're saying that is the general service, so that when an ambulance is driving through and
It
someone
knows
says
where
they
to
live
go.
in the 40s or they live in Coleman's Cove, the ambulance knows where to go. But within those general service areas, there are smaller historical communities, and I think that maybe is not acknowledged. And so, you know, do you look at changing the entire general service area and reviewing those throughout the municipality? Or do you look at a program where those
Putting up
smaller
community
historical
signs or something.
communities can be recognized in some way?
Community signs or something, yeah. Anyway,
You have
we'll take a
Councillor
look
Coolin
at
and
it.
then Councillor
Oh,
Connors.
sorry.
I was,
Councillor Church, Councillor Coolin, Councillor Connors.
Okay.
thank you, to not belabor this too much, but I believe it happened in Clarissa Coolin's riding as well, where signs were moved. Definitely, the Marriott's Cove sign has been moved several times, and for some reason, the local Department of Highways took it upon themselves to move it, because people would go in and say that's not in the right place, and they'll move it. But I can tell you that sign's been moved several times. The actual Windsor Road sign has been moved several times, so I think sometimes they're moving the signs.
Right.
I don't know why.
Right.
But it's not just happening in New Ross, but maybe more, you know, they moved that one quite a ways.
Yeah, and I think, you know, one of the ways we know in governments of all areas, I worked in policy and in education, and, you know, doing a small change is not a small feat, as we know, and when you're looking and navigating policy. But what I do know is that when we engage the partners in communities and they have a voice around, you know, saying, can we live with this? And, you know, it really is not meant to be, you know, something that's delicate or difficult, but really, what does the information tell us? And, you know, are we able to take a look at this and restore these signs to the locations which we can live with, and that indicate the locating beacons, if you will, for these various areas? And, you know, when I shared in the letter, we had an opportunity when there was a sign change from, I used to live on the Windsor Road, and for emergency responders, there was confusion. And we engaged with partners, I believe even with the municipality and the province, and it was beautifully, we support it completely. So, you know, if we have an opportunity to kind of say, this is what we need, you know, and it's not anything that is of malintent. It's actually, there's some confusion, I think, for the greater membership of all of the communities, and it would be great to have an opportunity to just come together and talk about it.
Okay, we got Clarissa, I think you were next.
Yeah, thank you. piggyback what Tara had mentioned, the 911 service for mapping, it was several years ago. It also collaborated with the postal service as well. Meaning like, and I was the postmaster for many years in Hubbard's, and it was not a question of those signs being moved for relocation purposes. It was for, you actually live in Birchie Head. You actually live in the lodge, whereas before, Canada Post would have you down the 329. So they indicated that they wanted to know, 911 services want, and Canada Post had to change everyone's mail service, but they were not happy. And some of them were thrilled. Now I can really truly say I don't live in Hubbard's, that I actually live in Birchie Head and so on. So the idea of it, I think at the time, I don't know if it has anything to do with why this sign was moved. Those signs were relocated, like Sharon had mentioned, in Hubbard's and down the 329, just for that purpose, for the 911 services to partner in Canada Post to piggyback that as well, just so indicative where you actually live within your community.
Right.
Right, yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, Tina? Then we're,
Thank you. So to add more confusion, I guess, as part of the discussion back in 2018, when Mr. Seaboyer and I were pursuing with interest, just again, the clarity. So now we jump ahead to 2025. But as part of that, I brought to the table discussion that was followed with emails, written confirmation from the local fire chief and the staff sergeant for Lunenburg County RCMP at the time, Stephen McQueen. And both of those individuals confirmed to Ken and I that it was around the civic numbering and the highways in which we live, not the community. So my fire chief isn't concerned, or the RCMP. Again, it could have changed from 2018, so maybe they're going to say differently. But at that time, in writing, we have from them that they are concerned that I live at 7139 Highway 12 in Lunenburg County. Not Aldersville. Didn't matter. Didn't matter. I have that from them in writing. And because Highway 12, if you will, as many of our roads will run from Highway 3 to Highway 1 in Kentville, perpendicular, straight through. So there would be a 7139, Highway 12, Lunenburg County, and a 7139, is my guess, Highway 12, Kings County. So that's, then therefore, the discussion around 911 kind of doesn't come into play a bit. But I'm just throwing that out there to add more for discussion.
okay, so we'll look for a
Doesn't hurt
staff
anything.
path to
Perfect.
come up with something.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to do 9.3 because I think it's relatively simple, and then we're going to take a quick break. Washroom, coffee, that kind of stuff.
All right. Good evening, Council. So what we have tonight is a potential municipal planning strategy and land use bylaw amendments to amend our policies around commercial or large-scale wind turbines. And this is in response to direction from the province, who has decided to wade into this land use and mandate a maximum setback that municipalities can apply to new commercial scale wind turbines. So this is an area where previously municipalities had been left to determine an appropriate setback for that kind of land use, but purportedly in support of the province's goal to have 80% renewable electricity by 2030. They are making this amendment to standardize setbacks for wind turbines across the province, and again, purportedly make it easier for industry to locate.
And we have no options.
No, that's right. As far as I'm aware, unless Sam has a magic bullet that, but no, I don't think so. It is This has been added as an update to the minimum planning regulations that are attached to the Municipal Government Act, and that is the governing legislation that provides us with our authority to do land use controls.
So your recommendation is we make the changes that the province has told us we have to make?
Yeah, and just to quickly go over sort of maybe the difference so that it is, on the record here as to what
Closer.
these changes are. So in 2020, we did our municipal plan review and brought in what we have as current regulations now. Essentially, anything that exceeds 100 kilowatts would be deemed to be a large-scale project and go by a development agreement. Our current policy, we regulate based only on sound, and so we say that the sound level has to be, the setback has to be such a distance so that sound is measured to basically be no more than 30 decibels above the ambient sound levels from a property line.
Yeah.
The new regulations from the province are saying that you can only mandate a maximum of 40 decibels, so a louder noise, and that's measured to the dwelling. So there can be a significant difference between the property line and the dwelling, especially in rural areas where these kind of projects tend to locate. Could have hundreds of meters between your property line and your dwelling. However, there are a few other provisions that are included here that we didn't previously regulate. We just relied solely on sound. Now the new regulations essentially use sort of three criteria, and it's whichever is the most stringent which applies. So what is in the draft amendments and what's recommended is essentially 4 times the tower height or the distance required to keep noise levels at or below 40 decibels measured from the dwelling, or the distance required to limit shadow flicker to no more than 30 minutes per day or 30 hours per year. And shadow flicker is essentially when the sun is behind the blades and you get a moving shadow that falls on a dwelling in this case. So given that we don't really have an option, the recommendation is to adopt all 3 of those together. That gives us the most, as far as my understanding goes, the most stringent setbacks that we can have. And so that is the recommendation. If council is satisfied with the changes, we have
Recommended motion.
proposed a date for a public hearing for July 10th, which, and then it would just be a question of, do we want to do that in the morning or in the evening for the public hearing?
The public can say what they want. We can't change it anyway.
That's right. We still have to hold the hearing.
I know we do,
so,
but
yeah.
we might as well just do it at the beginning of a council meeting. Yeah. Somebody want to move the,
Move option 1.
seconded?
Second.
Sorry. Sorry.
Discussion, all those in favor? Opposed?
Thanks.
Motion's carried. Well, we can't. Well, I mean, no, because it has to happen, whether we like it or whether we don't. Okay, we're going to take a 10-minute break, unless nobody wants one.
You have to ask for a recorded vote. It's one opposed.
What?
Just, Councillor Connors didn't vote, so we're just
Oh,
one opposed, that's all.
oh, one opposed. Yeah, she shows up as
You were live.
Okay, we'll call the meeting back to order, and we're on 10.1, Economic Development Sponsorship, and you're going to lead this?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay,
Oh, sorry.
So on behalf of our Senior Economic Development Officer, Brian Webb, this is an information report only to advise council of some recent economic development sponsorships that have been granted. So the list is there. They include a hiking summit with Hike Nova Scotia, a golf tournament with our health center, 55+ games, Country at the Cross Music Festival, AHT, Aspetucket Ridge Golf Club, and Golf for Charity event.
okay.
You're welcome.
Okay, 10.2, Amendments to Development Agreement, Atlantic Star Forestry, Bear Lake. I think they're building one more turbine or something, aren't they? What? Yes.
Yeah, so we received an application from Bear Lake Wind Limited on behalf of the landowner Atlantic Star Forestry, and they're requesting an amending development agreement to part of the development agreement that was executed last year for PID number 604-08820. And so this is at the municipal boundary and Highway 14. The request is to permit maximum height of 215 meters or 705 feet, rather than 207 meters that's in the existing DA, and to change the maximum wind generation down from 12 megawatts to 8.5 megawatts, and then also to indicate one turbine rather than two. And the existing DA was registered August 14th last year. And the reason for the request is they've changed their design to a different type of turbine model. And so the original tower was 206, and now they're looking at 211 and change. And it's actually, the base of the tower is actually slightly shorter, but the blade is longer. So the actual tip height, that's the height we're talking about, is not the middle of the hub, but up to the top point of the blade. They propose increasing the height and the capacity allowance slightly above where they're looking at this current type of turbine. So they're intending to do a 211.7 foot high turbine, but they're hoping in case there is some change in the future that they can have a little bit of flexibility with the height as well as the generating capacity is should be 8, I think, but they're, can we just put 8.5 in for contingency? So an amending DA process is needed because the height is not in the non-substantial matters in the development agreement. So it's a standard development agreement process. So public information meeting, planning advisory committee, the first and second council meetings. And
So we just need a motion to recommend the amendment, or?
Nope.
I don't believe, this is just
Well, we
for
don't need to,
information,
okay.
yeah.
I was gonna say,
So,
This is an information report because you'll be seeing an advertising come out for a
Okay.
public information meeting, just so you
Yeah.
know what is going to be, and then it'll be
Okay.
referred to PAC and all.
Okay, I didn't see the
Yeah,
motion
no,
there.
there, we don't need a motion, you would need to, I mean, we could do a motion to refer it to PAC, but you're
That's
really
what
in a
you're doing
position,
anyway.
that's what we have to do anyway.
Yeah. Okay,
So,
anyone, any questions?
yeah.
I said
And the
mine.
group from the applicants is there if you. if
Well,
you
it's
did have
relatively
any
minor.
questions, but, okay, thank
Anyone,
you.
any questions? No, apparently we're all good.
Thanks.
Okay, 10.3. These are all things that we've already dealt with, I believe.
Yeah, so these are just revised versions, the compiled versions of what was approved for budget, the capital investment plan, the operating budget book, and the reserve fund budget. It reflects what was approved when we approved the budget, except that the book you would have received then did not reflect the organizational change that we had made separating the two departments, so that is reflected in here. And the only other thing that's reflected in here was the motion to approve the purchase of the Public Works facility, which was done following the approval of the budget book. So that's been reflected in this budget where we moved that up. It was in the capital plan. We moved that up, the 2 million, the 2 point whatever million dollars, and that's reflected in the changes.
So do we need a motion here?
No, you don't need a motion. It's just
Or
so
just
you
giving
have
us the
those.
information? Okay.
Councillor Bremner has this.
Oh, Councilor Brennan, yeah.
Thank you, Warden. Through you to the CAO. Now, this I see where we're talking about here, the money for the Chester Common sidewalk.
It
It's
was
already-
approved in
it's
the
already
budget.
approved
It
in
was
the
approved
budget.
in the budget.
So that money is there.
Yep,
And no matter where we go from here, it's put aside for that
yep.
cause.
It's there. If we don't do it, then it just doesn't get used,
Okay.
but it's in there.
Yeah.
Okay, 10.4. Best of Chester Municipal Awards. Changes.
Good evening, hello. There we go. All right, so based on council's previous feedback, we're back with a few more options for you to have a look at. Won't go through the first part. I have outlined sort of what we currently do to highlight our business community in the list there. If there's any questions about that, let me know. First option is a more sort of comprehensive shop local campaign encompassing what we already do and taking that shop local lens to it. In the additional research I did, we are actually the only municipality that does a Best of Awards. This is mainly done by chambers of commerce or independent publications like The Coast and The Grapevine. So just something to think about. There's some ideas down there that's some easy ones to hit this year that would not affect our budget at all. Second option, if there is desire to continue with the Best of Awards, we have a People's Choice format where we get rid of all the categories and just let people nominate their top 10 favorite local businesses. Okay. Another option would be adding new categories. So instead of blowing them away, getting rid of the sector-specific ones and adding some categories like community champion, best place to work. So both of those options sort of address the need of not having enough businesses in each category, the same ones winning all the time, things like that. That was brought up. So another one to toss in there is the Hall of Fame option. So if we were to, or if council were to direct that Best of Awards is done, we could still recognize those that have won consistently over the years. 5 years as an example. They get a permanent sort of plaque, permanent recognition on the websites, and then we can move ahead with something else. And last one is a sort of a partnership-based approach with our local business organizations. So they would take over having business celebration socials, and we could help with some organizing, promotion, and a small sponsorship, but it would be on them to recognize the businesses in their community. Some caution that could be some time and possibly, not the entire municipality being recognized in that.
Do you have one that you believe would work the best?
My top choice is the Shop Local campaign.
I like the idea of that, but I really like the idea of doing the Hall of Fame for people that got awards over years. That puts a bow on it, that it's finished.
Yep.
And then move on to the Shop Local campaign. I'm in agreement with that.
Shop local and Hall of Fame, people good with
Option
that?
one, yeah. Yeah.
That's the first option, yeah.
Yeah, I like the shop local. I think the program has run its course.
Okay.
People
That's what
are,
we're trying to encourage.
you know, we're trying something new. I'd like to just concentrate on the shop local, but I'm not offended by the Councillor Ace's suggestion, so. if we
Well,
wanna
giving
do
them a plaque for those that have won for after years and years and
I
years.
agree, it kind of says goodbye to the program.
That would put an end to, you know.
We might want to reinvent it in a few years, but I think I would be okay with it, you know, not happening for a few years and just try the shop local. I think we have the climate now to really concentrate on that.
Okay.
Okay, we're all good with that? Okay, that's the direction.
Thank you very much.
We probably should just get a motion.
Okay.
I know you don't like that.
Make a motion. Tom made it,
Sorry?
Della seconded it.
Yeah, option one.
Yes.
Discussion, all those in favor? Opposed, motion's carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we're getting close to the finish of the second page. Okay, 11.1, letter to cancel from the Remembrance Day flyby.
Yes.
Yeah. So we're all good with that? Okay, so we need a motion for that one?
Please?
Motion to let them fly by?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded, discussion, all those in favor, opposed, motion's carried.
Question.
What, question?
Yeah.
Just curious, you know, it's kind of late to throw the wrench in the gears, but, you know, obviously it's not flying by Hubbard's or District 2 at all.
They make the choice, we don't have
Understandably,
anything
but I mean, I would
whatsoever.
like to maybe put our feather in our hat maybe for next year, that it should be considered, you know, one of the spots that, you know, if they do
Okay,
fly by.
for next year, we can try it.
Thank you.
They have a flight, yeah.
Well, but they usually try to touch on every place that has a lead, is what I understand.
Well,
Like they fly by, I know they used to fly by.
yeah. Well, we can inquire.
We can inquire and get some information on how they make the choices and whether there's room to request.
Yeah, Andre will fly by. Amendments to the Nova Scotia Building Code, 11.2.
Yeah, this is for information.
Yeah, they're
So
saying-
there's changes being made, proposed to the building code regulations. So they've given us notice of that. They've asked for comments on or before July 14th. We've sent it to our building officials. They haven't indicated any concerns with it, so just giving this to council for information.
Okay. Okay. 11.3, access over municipal property.
Yep, so this is a letter from Mr. and Mrs. Harnish requesting access over several parcels of land on Lake Road in Mill Cove. I've given you a couple of maps, front and back tonight, just so you have context of where that is. So they have requested access, and so looking for direction from council. Is that something you would like us to pursue? And if it is, we are suggesting there is some history to this request. So we do own some two parcels in that area, in particular two what look like road parcels. They're identified as Lake Road on the map. On the first map, that's the colored, or sorry, the map not with the satellite image. You can see that one of those roads, Lake Road parcels, has access to Parkwood Drive, which is a municipal road, and the other one is in yellow there indicated. Neither of them are actual roads. They are pieces of, they're pieces of land that the municipality owns, but they're not right-of-ways, they're not roads, they're just parcels of land that we own. There is a road access over them to Lake Road, but it's not a public road, it's just it's a right-of-way or a road over over to get access to the lake is really what it is. So there is some history to this. We would suggest that if you are interested in this, you get a staff report and
it mean to
some
us,
legal
yeah.
advice on what that means, yeah.
Yeah, you're on.
Thank you. I just think that the majority of the request, or that seemed to be the continual request over a long period of time, was just being able to access the small little lake between Lake Road, not the yellow as indicated in the photo, but I think that the idea originally, they were going to potentially, as a couple, subdivide and put many properties there, and then, of course, the road had to be a certain size in
Width,
order,
and-
yeah, right, width. So then, of course, I believe, after speaking with Mr. and Mrs. Harnish, that, they subsequently have decided, just to mitigate it in order to access it and be able to give it to future family members, right? That they weren't going to develop anything other than that. And they were just looking for basically access from Parkwood and/or, because they can come up on their own, right, through Creek Drive. So, Creekside, I don't think it's that a labor-intensive thing, and I don't know if it's something that we could grant them, but I mean, it's something please look into. I don't know the legality behind it, but it doesn't seem like a big ask. But then again, I'm new at this job, and I don't know the legal requirements
Well,
for any of.
staff will tell us how
Staff-
complicated it is
I
if we ask them to tell us.
I appreciate and respect the staff, absolutely, thank you.
So we want them to take a look at it. Does anybody object to that?
Yeah, that was my question, actually. I'd like to get, do you have any history with this, Sam? You're probably well-versed in it.
Yes,
You are?
yes.
Okay, so I would like a staff report and Sam's input as well.
Yeah, okay, that's what we'll get. Sorry, Andre.
No, I think it's fine, I'll wait.
Yeah, okay. Okay, that's what we'll do. And 11.4, Farmers Market, regarding request for support, Nourishing Communities Food Coupon. What the frig, what do they want?
They're looking for a letter of support, a letter of support to the Premier and ministers urging them to reconsider a funding decision that was made.
I'm not overly familiar with it, but.
Yeah, so they sent a letter to the Premier and 4 key ministers requesting an increase in provincial funding
Oh, yeah.
for their program. Despite demonstrated success and growing demand, they were informed that the funding was reverting
Back
to
to the old.
a level provided in 2024, and the reduction, they feel, means that households will lose access to the support that they provide on food and security.
We get an awful lot of letters asking us to make the province change its mind.
Yep.
Andre?
Yeah, that's, sometimes we're asked to advocate for our residents specifically
Yeah.
on some provincial government policy, but this appears to be just a province-wide organization that's non-specific to our area.
Yeah.
I'd rather not intervene. It's their policy decision to make.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it is sort of, because it's administered through the farmers markets, which we have 2 here, 3 actually. Probably one in New Ross, the one in Chester, and the one in Hubbard's. So I think what they're asking for, is just a letter. I mean, in keeping with, because they distribute it, it would be distributed out of our markets here. So we do have some role to play, I think. I mean, we can't make the province change their mind, but I don't see a problem with writing the letter.
No, other than that, I wouldn't want the province to be writing us letters telling us to change our policies and.
I agree, but this is not that, it's a policy, this is a different policy. This is a food policy. It's not like,
Well, it's up to council what they want to do.
yeah, well, anyway, that's my suggestion, yeah.
Yes, Andre?
No, it's all right. I'll just wait if there's a motion to be made. I'll speak with my vote.
I'll put the motion on the floor that we send a letter, and the template's there.
Seconder? Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Defeated? Was it? I couldn't,
I'm not sure.
I'm not sure either.
I saw,
I thought,
4 opposed, I think.
I thought it was 4 opposed, yeah. Yeah, it's defeated. Okay. Letter to CAO.
Yep, so this is just a letter from the Department of Justice. So every year when we review the budget, we put a placeholder amount in there of what we think will be our policing costs, because we don't get those costs until after the budget is approved. So this is the letter providing us with our allocated costs for this year. It's $2,624,108. That is it's roughly about $16,000 more than we had budgeted for this year. I don't think we need to do anything. It'll just be a variance in that line item.
Yeah, and it is what it is.
Yeah.
Yes?
I'd like to read, the motion and the vote was not very clear to me at all.
On the previous item.
Yeah,
On the
there's
previous
4
item.
against, that's what I counted.
I don't know. I don't know what the procedure is, but
Well, in order to reconsider, you'd have to have, what, I forget what majority you need to do
I
that.
think it's a two-thirds majority.
Well, that's what I thought.
Well, if I had it wrong, but that's not how, what I,
I saw for the opposed, I saw Counselor Bremner, Counselor Vino. I
Myself.
didn't see your hand up. Were you opposed or in favor? In favor?
well,
Oh,
but then I saw
didn't-
it, I
we
saw it
didn't
too
see
late then. Yeah, okay, then it was approved. It was approved if that's the case, it's just, when your hand's still up, and when it's against.
So the minutes will reflect that, I'm
Yeah.
sure.
Okay, so
We missed
letter.
a hand.
Okay, letter to the CAO is, it is what it is. 12.1, new road name assignment, community development recreation.
Some confusion?
She usually makes it real simple.
I plan to keep it equally as simple. So there's a new road name proposed for District 2. And the road name is Lillian Lane. And as part of her research for this new road name, so they did all the typical work. And it is a unique name in Nova Scotia. And did a check-in with the District 2 councillor, Public Works, and the local fire department. And none of them had any concerns with this particular road name. So there's a suggestion that council proceed with this road name as proposed.
So moved? Seconder, Abdallah? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried.
Just one note, just to follow up on that. Is over the past few months, there's been some internal discussions just around using names, so kind of personal names, family names for roads. And so just a heads up that we'll be bringing a report to a future policies and strategy session, just to have a further discussion around that topic.
Half of the roads around here are the last names of families that lived on them.
Yeah. So we want to have just a brief conversation with council on that, and things may not change, or you may wish to make some changes. Yeah.
Okay, we can talk about it. Okay, 12.2, on natural area shelter, community development.
Yes, you get Sylvia again. So this report is to follow up on a request from council. So back in earlier this year, when we were going through budget deliberations, there was a project included with your original capital budget related to the Han Natural Area Shelter. And there were some questions just about some of the background additional details on that project. And so it had gotten removed and bumped ahead in the capital budget a year in advance. And then there was a request at a subsequent budget meeting that there was a question from council as to whether or not that could be bumped up and actually included in this year's budget, as long as there was some additional information that came forward. So the intent of this is that additional information. So, so hopefully everyone's had a chance to go through. There's a little bit of background information as to why this shelter was proposed initially, and a lot of that was in relation to the original Kentway Mosier home that was on the property, and how as staff in the municipality, we might be able to utilize that home as part of the services in that area. And then, of course, council made a further decision to demolish that house. That became a non-option. And so the follow-up option was to build a shelter. And so then that shelter would serve all the purposes as outlined in the report. And so in addition to kind of the uses, there were some questions around the size and look of the shelter, and so there's a rough drawing, just a very preliminary rough drawing of what the shelter might look like, along with the dimensions. It would be a 20 by 30 covered structure on an engineered concrete slab with removable fire pit, central chimney, and enclosed storage area. And then there's a breakdown of the budget in there as well. So if you recall, the overall budget was $195,000, so there's a little bit of a further breakdown of that budget for you included there. And then there was also two suggestions by councillors that we could take a look at to current examples of shelters in other communities. One was the Lockport Seascapes Park Pavilion, so they just did a little bit of research and got some information on that project, which was in 2006, and it was a 35 by 65 structure. And you can see the cost there of approximately $182,000, and there's a couple of photos of that structure in there. And then the second project that was brought up as a suggested similar project was the Hubbard's Barn, and of course the Limca Hill Pavilion that most people are familiar with in the rear area of the Hubbard's Barn property. And so that was built in 2019. And didn't have an exact cost, but it was definitely over $100,000. So I just wanted to provide those couple of examples in there as to kind of comparable to what we're trying to accomplish on the Hahn estate. Now, the only other note that I would make in there, just as it relates to the finances, is that as part of our budget deliberations, we had talked about the funding coming from the Parkland Reserve. And so if we do proceed, there would be no impact on the budget this year, as it would be coming from reserve. And as well, we talked about making an application through to the Hahn Chataway Trust. And we haven't explored that yet, but we think that there probably would be a pretty good chance of some success with some funding from that trust. And so that would of course reduce the amount that would be required to come from the reserve.
Dan would be upset if we didn't get something.
So that's the background information. So I'm just looking for some direction from council as if you'd like to proceed with this project or not.
Do we? I would like to, yeah.
If we proceed with the project, I would like to, you know, I mean, if you're gonna build it, you should put electricity to it in some fashion, a couple of plugs, right? I would think. It's easier to do when you're constructing it. Well, maybe not if it's open, but I just think that should be included in the plan.
So we hadn't considered that, so that would be based on the location, that we'd have to do some research into that, because there would have been obviously power to where the home was before. The proposed location of the shelter was a little bit more inland from that, so there may be some additional considerations to actually get power to the location, but.
Church, Councilor Church?
Yes, thank you. I recommend that we would go ahead with that. I'd like to see it happen. I'm not so hung up on the lights, maybe, you know, solar lights would suffice, or maybe there's some other solution, a small generator if people needed to use it.
We already have all those things if we want.
But I think we should go ahead with the project. It would be quite a nice enhancement. And I know they have one at Graves Island, but it's usually locked up and not, you know, easily accessible. So I think this could be a nice opportunity, even in the winter time, to use it.
I forget, was Councilor Coolin was next, yes.
Thank you. This is all new to me, of course. I like segueing that every time I speak. The property was donated, correct?
Yes,
I mean, it was donated in kind, as a gift from a former counselor. I took a drive up there, I wanted to have a peek, and see, where, it's not centrally located at all. Like, it's kind of in the, it doesn't have a central location vibe to me, whereas, the one obviously at the barn, it's utilized like with hundreds and hundreds of people daily. I'm just curious as to like, who would use it at the cost of, at that cost? How often would it be utilized and, just for that purpose? I'm just being a devil here. I just want to get some clarity. Thank you.
So I think we maybe had some conversation before about, attendance, so we don't have any way to take attendance at any of our kind of trails or parks. So any comments would be just strictly just kind of observations and kind of what we're seeing. And so I think any time that staff have been going to the property most recently, there seems to be always vehicles in there and people using the property, and we've been using it a fair amount for our own programming as well. In this summer, I know we have several kids programs happening there, so we are seeing a fair amount of use, and and all of the comments that we've been getting back from the public are extremely positive, and that's in addition to kind of adjacent property owners and just any of those folks that we've been interacting with. There will be another story that I'll share either through email or to council, just on a couple of nice feel-good stories coming from the property over the past little while. So so it's definitely having some significant usage, and and if you haven't been there, absolutely. Well, our July 10th, Sharon had mentioned our July 10th kind of grand opening, so we're hoping to have a good crowd come out that day. And so far it's been pretty fantastic and well-received park to date.
Is there a washroom facility going to be installed?
Currently, there is a porta potty at that location,
Yes.
but that is one of the locations that is set for one of our permanent.
There obviously must be a well and septic there if it was a home that was there. So I assume that there would be a washroom facility.
At this point in time, that has not been part of the plan. It goes to a whole nother level, kind of from an outhouse kind of porta potty style
Whole level of money.
to
whole level of
running water and flushable toilet. So we have not. That hasn't been part of the plan to date.
Okay, thank you.
Andre?
I haven't yet been convinced that this is a good idea, to be honest with you, for the cost. In Hubbard's, we have a covered area at the barn. The New Ross Fairgrounds, we have the covered area. We have Graves Island that I think all it takes is a booking and it can be opened and available. It's a lot of money, $200,000, and I agree that this new park, it's getting good reviews. We have a nice trail system that's been put in, and it's not unlike River Ridge Common outside New Germany. That's similar, actually, in the type of park that it is, a big trail network. But even that park, as good and well invested as it is, does not have any such built space like this. And I'm not saying it couldn't work. I just don't know what problem we're trying to overcome. I'm not convinced that this is actually a wise investment, frankly. And somebody has to change my mind at this point. I guess Abdella's going to do it.
Thank you. So tell me a bit about Hubbard's Pavilion and how it works in terms of what we've dreamed about in terms of accessible forest magic, seniors with mobility challenges could access the shelter by vehicle if needed. The space will also be available to the public for picnics, family gatherings, community events, or just a place to relax. Is there anything in there that can't happen, and I'm being honest here, is there anything in there that can't happen at the Hubbard's Pavilion?
I would say no, other than the element of the fire pit and the storage area for program equipment. So, yeah, no, other than that, it would be very, and I think that's why, one of the reasons
no.
why that's there as an example, is
No,
that it's very, very similar, and
Just
we have
thinking of
similar
the
use.
municipality in its entirety, of course,
Yeah.
as we all do, as we all do. And I think I spoke not in a positive manner in terms of a vote of yes at budget time, if I remember. And I was the one that actually suggested reaching out or looking into the Chattaway Han Trust. And I get that that's available to us as an applicant, no different than other organizations within the municipality. So even though that money would be available to us, and that would be great, if we did dip into that, and that's fine, that would still, deplete that fund or take down that fund where other organizations, it's not that it's gonna disappear at the end of a fiscal year. It sits in an account, and it's there, and it's readily available based on applications for other organizations. So it's not like it's gonna disappear if you don't spend it by a certain time, that trust, and I'm sure that's correct. So I'm not quite convinced either in terms of,
But the Hans gave us the property.
the totality of the budget and the demonstrated need and, evidence-based decision-making and all that, and that's in my head. And, that coupled with the fact that we do have some existing facilities, when I look at what we're trying to serve, what we're trying to meet, and I think it's great, but what other facilities might now exist? In Graves Island, maybe there's an opportunity to have a discussion to see if we can open that up a little bit more. If you're suggesting that it's locked, and I believe you, that those facilities are locked and not available, well, maybe we need to enter into some discussions with the province to make that, to see a change there. And thank you, Councillor Vino, for mentioning the covered structure at the fairgrounds. I actually wouldn't even have thought of that. I would have thought of Hubbard's and Graves Island. But you're right, there is a facility. And I don't know how an open pit fire would work, but I know we had an open pit fire during the fundraiser that we had on February the 15th in New Ross, Saturday, February the 15th. It was so cold, we built a fire. And, yeah, so I guess there's opportunities for all of that exploration, just that for now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna come at it from a different angle. I think the Han Trust, when I read the report, was a contributing factor to how I'm gonna make my decision. But for me, I mean, Alan, you could probably speak to this better, but when they donated that property, their intent was for the public to use it.
That's correct.
And I think with our other properties that were very generous, Rudy Hawes donated property down on Gold River, and I'd like to think we as a council can think in terms of what the person that left
Gave it
the
to us
thing,
once.
what their wishes would be. That's the way I think, and I think it's good because it connects to if it didn't connect to the trail, different story. But the trail's a big part of what we do for rec. It's used a lot. And if it was $188,000 completely from the taxpayer, I would think about it twice. I'm not saying that I wouldn't. But where the trust is available, and in my view, that's exactly what the trust, one of the reasons the trust was set up. Not for other things, but to actually make that place what they envisioned.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you.
Councillor Vino.
I have a question for Chad. How much have we invested in the trails on the Han property so far?
I'm not sure right off the top, so they're.
Estimate.
Oh, gee. Yeah, so there's two different projects. So we had the initial project where Trail Flow did some of the
Throw that in the woods.
some of our preliminary routes, and then just this past year we finished the green route. So I would say maybe and this is just off the top, maybe 100,000 or thereabouts.
How much did it cost to demolish the old house? and remove it.
Again, I don't know right off, but maybe 15, 20,000.
Yeah, I was gonna say 15.
Something around in that area.
20,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, so it's not that we've been given an asset and we're just sitting and not doing anything with it.
Yeah.
In a couple of years, we've invested already more than maybe $120,000. Okay, and now we're talking about maybe investing another $200,000. And I commend these men that left this property. It's wonderful. And if they had a vision for this property, that's great, but it's not their decision to make. And it's a wonderful gift, but we have to make the right decision. And to date, I haven't been convinced that this particular facility that's being proposed is the right one. If somebody can make that proof to me, then I'm all for it. At this moment in time, for $200,000, I haven't been proved. I haven't been. If a majority of this council has been, great. But do not say that we haven't invested in anything in the property and we've been given anything, given this gift and it's just sitting there languishing. It's not. In the last year, we've spent over $100,000. So.
Yeah, it's a big piece of property, it's a lot of trails. Anyway, are we prepared to, oh, sorry.
Well, I appreciate the backstory, because, you know, obviously I'm just catching tidbits, you know, that it was a donated property and whatnot. Is there any suggestion, or I could make a suggestion, I don't know, that it could be scaled down, that it doesn't have to be as a big a structure, or, you know, that it might be a smaller pavilion type of, as opposed to this $200,000 investment, as opposed to maybe 100, I don't know. I'm
Yeah,
just
so-
thinking,
so-
is there a possibility to make it a smaller but yet investment?
Yeah, so I do think that, that what was proposed was kind of envisioned to be kind of the ideal place that would be perfect for kind of multi-purpose uses, including our own direct programs that we do. So there absolutely is other options that could be considered. I know most of you are familiar with the schools in your area, and a lot of the schools now have these covered shelters over that usually have picnic tables underneath of them. And so that is absolutely a possibility, is to take that type of approach where you would invest in, just a much smaller covered structure that would, you know, cover a picnic table or 2 or 3 picnic tables that would be much more smaller in size. It wouldn't have the same usage, but it would provide some of the kind of similar goals that we're trying to accomplish with this larger model. So absolutely, that could be an option to consider. If council is feeling that the price tag and the size of this is just too much to consider, that would absolutely be a secondary option to consider at obviously a much reduced price.
It depends on how much we can get from the Hahn Foundation. Yeah.
Thank you, Warden Weber, through you to council and Chad. I know this history well, and I knew the gentleman as the warden did and others. Is there a possibility, Chad, we could request half of the money from them, do you think? Is that something that might be the trust? If we put in, let's say, 100 and they put in 100, then it's a little more palatable? Because, no, and I know, but I need a little history.
We'd probably get 50.
I know what they were intending, and this is a nice facility, and I know what the Recreation Department's trying to look at for a vision for the future, and I appreciate the counselors that have challenges with this, because this is something that's not easy to always, vision what's going to be there, and there are concerns for me, security or things like that, because I know what the intent of the original house was, which we said ended up being tore down, but there was challenges there. As we all know, there were people showing up and doing things that weren't.
And it wasn't a very good shape.
No, and it wasn't, and I appreciate that. I honestly haven't made my mind up yet, because I'm torn on the intent and the cost and the challenges it may be. So I've got to hear if there's a vote, I have to make a decision, but right now I'm stuck.
One thing that I will say is that the trails and the park and the property as it sits right now are being used, like we mentioned, and we have been just getting tremendous feedback. So regardless of the decision to date on this proposal, it's not going to negatively impact what's there now. And so we'll continue to use that park. They'll continue to use the facilities and the trails, and we'll continue, I think, to have really great success with that. So I think the structure that here is would be kind of a bonus, and it may help encourage additional usage or allow us to do different things on the property, but it will not be at the detriment of currently what's there and the current users and how much they're enjoying those trails.
I think it was Abdullah next.
I'm gonna try to sell you, Andre, and so, and I'm pretty confident of Sam with the 50,000. So if we match it, and set a budget for this building of $100,000, I can live with that. Now, I don't know how you can live, I don't know how you can live, but that's all I'll say, and I'll welcome everybody's comment.
Well, we could construct something that would be useful. Sharon, and then Andre, and then back to Tina, I think.
Well, I'll just say, I see it as a new recreation opportunity. Our summer staff use it, it could be for the public, go there for a picnic, peace and quiet, it's a lovely trail. It's in my district, which I can't really say that I have very much in my district. So I see it, for the community. I'd like to see it happen, and the money's coming out of the park reserve, so yes, we're spending the money, but it's not going to impact the budget. So I, would like to see something, maybe if it has to be a scaled-down version, I'd like to see something with a shelter, that would be used more than, just a picnic table, I think.
I think it's Andre next.
When there was our Rotten House there, we were talking about asking the Han Trust for hundreds of thousands of dollars. And if this is then truly the owners of, the former owners of this property, if this is what their dream was, then surely the trust should be able to come to that table with some more than $50,000 if they want to make this a reality. I would suggest that our staff go back and actually find out what the trust is willing to contribute towards this project, and then we can make a decision on what we think the scope should be.
I'll just say that they have contributed a lot more than they ever intended to the Heritage Society over the last little while. And it's, Tina?
Thank you. So actually, that's good information. I think that the only applicant to the trust has been the Heritage Society?
I can't tell you.
I believe that's correct. No? Okay, that's interesting. 'Cause I
No,
know.
it's available to a
Oh, I
wide
know,
variety.
I know, because we're still sitting on some ideas in New Ross in terms of Dr. Peter Cullen and the Old Annapolis Road, and where he especially has some connections to some of the originators with the trust and so on. So, yeah, that'll be information that comes out when we find out, again, who's made application and the amounts. So remind me again, I know I got the invitation for the grand opening for July 10th. What's the length of the trail again? The length?
You guys are asking me great questions tonight. It's about an hour walk to the trail and back, so I don't know right off, so 5 kilometers is a typical 5K would be in that amount round trip.
No, I'm just comparing it to some of the other trails and community trails.
This one also connects to our main trail.
It does, it connects on the back end to the rail trail, yes it does.
So I guess I'm just looking again, return on investment, sitting here as a taxpayer again, in terms of the totality of the trails and how much money we put into that particular area of trail and so on. So yeah, no, it's just interesting. Compare apples to apples.
Okay, what do we want to do? You gotta move along somehow.
Suggestion.
I'll make a motion that we go ahead with the project and see if we can get, what funding we can get from the Han Trust or any other sources.
Moved, we have a seconder.
I'll second that.
Seconded. Discussion, any further discussion?
You're going for your motion is with full
Yeah,
Is that
sure.
what your motion is? I thought it was the other way, sorry.
Well, we can put a ceiling on it of 100,000. I don't know what kind of a building they can get for that.
Well, that's better than nothing.
Let's say better than nothing, yes.
So it's 100
Yep,
and applied to the trust for some funding. Yeah.
I'll second that motion.
All those in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. Okay. Here, soon get this over. Request for decision, community garden fencing project.
Hello. I was going to mention
one.
something about how fun it is here in the evening, and did you guys consider holding your meetings in the evening all the time? Or
No.
just tonight? Just being cheeky, sorry. I'm actually in to talk about Growing Friends. So Julia was in a couple of weeks ago to talk to you guys about the fence project surrounding the community garden out here on our property. And I don't know if you guys paid any attention to it or not, but it actually is quite nice. Yeah.
Did a good job.
Yeah, I thought so. So there were a lot of people here working on it. And anyhow, so they had set a goal of $3,000 to fundraise, and they had a GoFundMe and another fundraiser luncheon, and they still needed about $1,200 left until their fundraising was cut short. It was an unexpected family emergency, so I won't go too much into it. Anyhow, the main fundraiser had to leave for a little while. So to move things along because of timing and getting the garden in and so on, a member of the community offered to donate $500 to, if the municipality also kicked in $500, and that would only leave a couple $100 left that they'd have to cover. So I'm here to make that request and see what you think. The money is actually available currently in the community garden budget. We have a budget of $3,000, so it wouldn't have
No
we
budget
wouldn't
in
be
there.
asking for extra money.
We want to do it? Tom?
Thank you, Warden Weber. I'd like to make a motion that we approve the $500. I've had very good feedback from our community, and it works with a lot of different organizations involved, and I think it shows our interest in a number of different ways. Thank you.
I'll second that motion.
Discussion?
I believe that it should be raised to 700. I believe that, I know you request for 5, I know you're not supposed to offer, us as council offer more, but you're talking a $200 deficit, and the money and the proceeds go back to the community, and it's part of the food bank process. I'd like to put a motion on the table of it.
We already have a motion for 500, so if you want to change it to 7,
I'm going to make I'd like to suggest, if proper, to amend that to $700.
Why not?
If the seconder will support it.
second it.
Second it.
Discussion on the amendment, I guess.
Yep.
All those in favor of the amendment? Opposed, motion carried.
Thank you.
Motion on the main budget?
Motion on the amended motion.
Yeah, up to give them 700. All those in favor? Opposed, motion's carried.
Thank you.
Okay, designated community fund grant request for a Heritage Schooners Rescue Society.
This one should be a little easier. So the Heritage Schooner Rescue Society has followed our policy P77, and they had actually initiated an account with us about a year ago, and so some funding has come in, and you'll see the details in here of the interest in using the funds that came in related to insurance for their project that they currently have underway with one of the schooners that they're restoring. So the group has requested a grant in the amount of $1,600 and looking for council approval this evening.
Yeah? Somebody moved it?
Second.
Moved, seconded? Discussion, all those in favor? Opposed, motion's carried. Okay, district grant requests.
Yes, we just have one request in there from Second Story Women's Center as a District 3 request. And they're asking for $500 towards a free summer camp that they're putting on in Chester this summer.
Discussion, all those in favor? Opposed, motion's carried. Okay, so I'm back down to,
No, you have 12.6.
12.6. Why don't I have that on here? I do. Chester Fire Services Committee, capital loan approval.
Yep.
Sorry.
I can put this one. All right, so we have a request for decision. We have representatives here from the Chester Fire Services Committee and from the Village Commission. We did an amendment to the agreement that we have with them, or with the village, that allowed borrowing for the committee. And so now they needed to come back with the revised budget. And so they are requesting that the municipality approve, hold on, I have to find the motion now. That the Chester Municipal Council approve the Chester Fire Service Committee 25-26 capital borrowing plan and seek a loan guarantee of, I think it's a loan guarantee, correct? Yeah, of $1.3 million to finance Phase 2 of the Chester Fire Station project, and that we guarantee that payment, so.
Okay.
And if there's questions, they're here to answer
So moved.
clarifications.
Do we have a seconder? Second by Abdallah. Discussion? All? Oh, sorry.
The 1.3 million, now probably most of the cost for this, that project management would happen in the construction administration phase, but we're not here yet with Phase 2, right? So 1.3 million is just design and cost assessment?
The 1.3 is mostly design through to construction documents, so through to ready for tender, or I think the document says shovel ready. But there is also an allowance for project management and a few other items. There's a breakdown in the package we have there.
Yeah, there's a lot of numbers here.
Yeah, so keep going.
Apparently, the village has already passed this motion.
I think the village has passed this motion already.
Keep going a little further. And so you see the highlighted column there?
Yes.
That's the idea is that that's the current year spend to get us to the point where we're ready to go to tender. So you'll see the bulk of it is design, but there are a variety of other categories there, including net HST.
Further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed, motion's carried. Okay, so now I'm on to, so we have a couple of in-camera matters yet, are they? I can't remember what they are, but.
No, you go ahead.
You had,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
you had a couple new ones.
Yeah, request for porta potty.
Yeah, last week, just to give quick background, last week, they were having an event at the Gold River, Old Gold River School, Together We Can Community. And Gina, who's the director there, said, Abdallah, there's like 145 kids coming on Friday, and there's no porta potty there. So I called Fred, Public Works. Fred said it got missed, well, because the porta potties were delivered 2 weeks before that, because I spoke to the contractor. And what happened last year, that porta potty that was up at the school was at Wild Rose Park for the renovations. So once the renovations were through, they decided just to take the porta potty up to the school for the remainder. And you know, and when we went through the budget and were placing porta potties, it just never got on the list. So we got it there, and I spoke to he brought it on Thursday night, they were great. And he said, once you get council approval, we'll just add it into the contract, and so that's what I'm asking for this evening, to be added.
You're making it a motion?
I'm making that a motion.
Discussion, all those in favor, opposed, motion carried.
Thank you.
Okay, so then we have, you want to do the FCM tonight or the FCM next week?
Only taking 5 minutes.
Okay, you do it now.
Thank you, Warden Weber. I just wanted to give the audience and council update on FCM, Federation of Canadian Municipalities. 3 councilors, 1 staff attended. It was a very good learning experience, with networking being the most popular and most rewarding for myself and I believe other councilors, where we talked to many different councilors from across the country, coast to coast to coast. Approximately 2,700 elected officials were represented. But I did have an issue that I'd like to see if council would write FCM a letter stating our unhappiness with the way they structured their meal plan, their process for the gala, where it was not, in my opinion, respectful to the attendees. People were sitting on the floor eating. It was not a comfortable situation at all. Not the gala, but the meals.
At the lunches.
Lunches, yeah, yes, I am not exaggerating. Yeah, and our gala, they overbooked it, and there was about 110 of us that were refused at the door and told they'd try to find ways to get us in. We actually were refused first, and then after our warden becoming very vocal and very strong, we got in, but it was definitely some kind of a confusion that wasn't respectful to us as the paying attendees. And I would ask a letter be sent on our behalf to tell them that we weren't satisfied with their angles of that approach. And it would be, I hope anybody that was there that felt this way would write them, because it's important they fix this. In my opinion, they overbooked for what their capabilities were. And
Well,
if
there's
any,
no harm in writing and expressing
Right,
our concerns.
right.
And you know, I mean, this is the first time we've ever we paid the full price, assuming we were getting into the gala. They had a special little check box you had to check, which we never ever had to do before, and we didn't do it, but we still paid for it, so, you know, they just made it more complicated than it needed to be. Anyway, we ended up getting in, but that's,
yeah, and I want to express, I did have a very good learning opportunity, and I thank councillor and taxpayers for sending us there, myself there for sure.
so we can, you can draft a letter for me and I'll sign it, yeah.
And I also want to just point out, we got to sit and listen to our Mr. Mark Carney. It was very exciting. It was very exciting, you know, to sit there as an audience. But like Councilor Bremer had said, those engagements are scripted, and we're sitting as an audience. And some of those, you know, had Q&A at the end. But I got more out of that conference in the outside area, the lounge area, the meet and greet area, because everyone who knows me knows I love to chat. First thing I say is, "Hi, I'm Clarissa from Chester." Then I have to explain where Chester is. But you know, I got a lot of information, finding out that all municipalities are pretty much struggling and suffering with the same concepts, right? You know. So anyway, I really appreciate being able to attend as well. Thank you.
Okay. Tina, uranium, you want, it's a meeting?
Thank you. So bringing it down from Ottawa, right down to Nova Scotia, Municipality, Chester, right into New Ross. So, public meeting, we met last evening, the New Ross Regional Development Society, and landed on unanimously landed on a agreed time, date and time, and reason, obviously, for gathering. And that's a public community meeting around uranium. And it will be a week from last night, Wednesday night, June 18th, which will be next Wednesday at 6 p.m. At the New Ross Consolidated School. So I'm fairly comfortable in saying that there will be at least 2 or more other councillors, I would hope, from this area, from this municipal council, because it will impact their areas as well, and it affects all of us. So I'm hopeful that all council may be in attendance. I know that I've already spoken with fellow councillors from the neighbouring municipal units, and I fully expect them to be in attendance, because again, information, the more information we can gather, the stronger we are, within our own minds and hearts of where we're going to be with this. We booked the school because it's centrally located. Parking is available, whether you have to go out onto Highway 12 or not, like you do with Forest Heights graduation and so on. But next Wednesday. So I guess, I'm not sure how it works, if Pam would be okay with doing a calendar invite. Is that how it sometimes works, with reminders of meeting dates and times and so on? So thank you very much for listening to that.
Okay, so that's the end of the council agenda. We have a couple of in-camera matters.
Yep.
So, a motion to go in camera. Moved and seconded, discussion. All those in favor? Opposed, motion's carried.